At the outset, forgive my lack of acknowledging other religions, and also I hereby acknowledge my immense privilege of who I am. If you believe that ICE is simply finding and deporting dangerous criminals in order to keep our community safe, I can see why the protests and outcry would be confusing, but that is not what they are doing. In fact, what is happening in Minnesota is so antithetical to our fundamental American ideals, it is hard to find the words to describe it. I pray that I might, and I pray that you'll hear me. Answer prayer. The scale and scope of the ICE occupation in Minneapolis is unfathomable. There are more ICE and CBP agents than the 10 largest metro area police forces combined. These federal agents are not confined to neighborhoods with high crime rates or large immigrant populations downtown. They are everywhere, from downtown to the suburbs, all day, every day. They have quotas to meet, and in order to do so, can't simply go after criminals or undocumented folks. Legal U.S. citizens are being stopped and detained for hours or days. ICE use violent tactics, brandishing weapons, and dispersing tear gas without provocation. They inflict fear on everyone. The impact on my local loved ones is stark and heartbreaking. It should alarm us all. I could talk about the few stories that have broken through the national media landscape. The family with 6 kids trapped in their car and tear gassed while driving in their own neighborhood. 5-year-old Liam Ramos sent to a detention center despite family begging to let him stay with them. Instead, I will tell you the firsthand accounts I have heard from my friends and family who live this every day. And these won't even begin to scratch the surface of the trauma that is collectively happening to this community. A friend driving with his 2 young children pulled over by ICE, who then drew their guns on them for impeding ICE activity. They had not noticed an apprehension taking place on the sidewalk. Guns drawn on children by a poorly trained and overtly violent force. A friend who is a white native-born citizen continues her traditional duty as the neighborhood bus stop buddy in Minneapolis, making sure children get to and from home in the bus safely. But now she instructs her own children that if she is apprehended by ICE for acting as a human shield, they are not to help her. They are to stay together and run to safety. These are the bedtime conversations happening in the homes of American citizens. A friend's colleague, a researcher at the University of Minnesota, has a young son who panics and cries every time his father leaves the house, terrified he will not return. Although here legally with an American wife, his skin color is a liability. He cannot escape. My friend explains to her 6-year-old that dad can't walk her to school anymore because of the color of his skin. For weeks he has left the house only to go to work, texting his wife anytime he arrives or departs, carrying copies of his passport. My friend reflects on her own privilege with one white parent. At least they have someone who can safely get groceries and run errands without citizenship papers. As the peril posed to her husband weighs on her, she continues to attend to her patients, listening as they break down in panic in her exam room, relaying stories of friends and families disappeared without notice, despite coming here the right way. Friends who are teachers see skyrocketing absence rates of Black and brown children whose families are afraid to leave their homes for fear of being apprehended in the school pickup line. Schools close altogether as they prepare ways to protect their students from the U.S. government. My friend realizes she hasn't heard from one student's mom in a few days, and the little girl hasn't been in school. They've been sent to a detention center in Texas. Gone. Former colleagues tell my mom that ICE is staking out the parking lot of a suburban high school, waiting to take children as they leave school. The debate team is too shaken to attend their competition, recalling stories of students tear-gassed outside their school. Every day, videos circulate of neighbors being aggressively stopped, violently tackled to the ground, tear-gassed, and taken away. If they are lucky enough to be released, they will walk out without a phone or a way to contact anyone, wearing only the clothes they were apprehended in into the Minnesota winter. Cars sit abandoned on the side of the road, their drivers taken and disappeared in broad daylight. Observers have learned to check the car, lest a baby be left inside, sure to freeze in the sub-zero temps. Attorney retainers, citizenship documents, life insurance policies, plans in case of arrest, burner phones. These are top of mind in America. My own mother distributes pamphlets to local businesses explaining their legal rights and refusing entry to ICE. Almost everyone has been in a store or restaurant when ICE storms in and demands to see papers. Judicial warrants are an antiquated notion. I read that ICE is following people who volunteer to pack meals at churches or distribute some information, compiling their license plates into a database, surely labeled domestic terrorists. I don't think they'll arrest my mother, an old white lady, but I realize I am considering the possibility that they just might. Yesterday, well, I guess it's 2 days ago, my friend saw her former neighbor's picture appear on her phone. She recalled what a kind person he was. A wonderful neighbor, passionate about his work as an ICU nurse at the VA. The type of work surely relegated to the angels walking among us on this earth. And then horror. There is no way to watch the video and not see it for what it is. The United States government executed an unarmed civilian in the street. The national news media keeps repeating that Alex was attending a protest, and then ensues a conversation about whether or not one would bring a weapon to a protest. As soon as you understand the situation on the ground, you realize how utterly ridiculous this back and forth is. It's not that Minnesotans don't protest. They do, beautifully, as they showed on Friday. But citizens have learned the necessity of quickly alerting the neighborhood through a whistle and then bearing witness to the lawlessness and atrocities that ICE are committing every day. Legally exercising their constitutional right to observe law enforcement has become a part of their daily lives. Sometimes on a Saturday morning while out to get donuts. Alex Pretti wasn't at a protest. He saw a woman tear gassed for blowing a whistle, and he stepped in to help. His last words before he was murdered were, "Are you okay?" He was the type of man I hope to raise my boys to be. Minnesotans are strong. They believe in community. Beneath the stoicism and grit born of surviving cold, dark Minnesota winters, they are a people of stubborn, relentless love. I know that somehow they will find a way to withstand this, to shoulder this grief and heartache while shielding one another from violence at the hands of the state. But they need our help to make it end. Our politicians are the ones who must act. 16 Senate Republicans standing with the Democrats could end this tomorrow. You can be for strict immigration laws and enforcement and still say you do not stand for this. You are allowed to say at any point, I can't support this. Even if you did, you are allowed to say this has gone too far. The time to do that is now. Tomorrow, call your senators and ask them to call for ICE reform and removal from Minnesota. Pick your reason. There are so many. The Constitution, the First Amendment, guarantees right to free speech, even and especially speech that criticizes the government. The Second Amendment guarantees your right to bear arms, a right that does not exist if an officer of the law can execute you if he sees a weapon holstered on your hip. The Fourth Amendment protects us from unreasonable searches, and the Fifth guarantees due process, and all are being violated right now. A republic does not collapse all at once. It collapses when people decide that this moment is tolerable, that this life is expendable, that morality can be compromised for the sake of power that feels familiar. Silence is not wisdom, it is complicity. I do sincerely appreciate people's prayers, but I would also ask them to consider that human action within the system of governance we have established for ourselves can be an answer to that prayer. The Bible does not command us to recite platitudes, sit idly by, and simply wait. We are commanded to love one another, to serve the least of these. I know that eventually love will win out over hate, as hate requires so much energy to keep itself going, eventually becoming brittle and collapsing in on itself. But the people of Minnesota need relief from this hellscape. They need to see that we care now. And if you'd like to jot down standwithminnesota.com, that will take you to a